look forward to working with the city attorneys to come up with a proposal, ballot language that we can both all agree on and get this issue resolved, rather than going forward with costly litigation for both sides.
What about the allegation that the city council or the city was ready, willing, and able to put a referendum issue on the ballot?
I'm not going to comment. You were there, Steve. You heard what was going on. I did not get that perception that the city was ready, willing, and able. Because if they were ready, willing, and able, there would have been a ballot.
What would make mediation work?
I'm hopeful that we can get together. I'm always hopeful that parties will mediate and come up with a resolution to an issue. It's certainly a lot less expensive than litigation.
Would that be a binding mediation, or?
It'd be a binding mediation, and it would be I would propose a binding ballot, because that is what we are seeking.
In other words, if the mediator said you don't have to do a ballot, you would still want to move forward with your action.
Right. I think you all were there. You heard the court. I think the court was certainly directing the parties to come up with ballot language. That's how I interpreted that order. That is what the mediation would be about.
Bottom line, eventually, do you see this going to a public vote?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
And does this conflict with the Stop the Winds effort, which is actually seeking a different kind of referendum?
No, it's just another side of the same cube, if you will. It is an issue that is very near and dear to the citizens of St. Pete, and it's why it's the very first chapter in our charter. Our parks and waterfront property mean so much to this city, and citizens have formed preservation committees for our waterfront over the years for the city of St. Pete. You know, they've incorporated ordinances to add further protections to the city's waterfront, and this is just one more step of the citizens who really understand what a valuable asset we have here in the city of St. Pete with our gorgeous waterfront. And you know, the fact that the voters will be paying for this, certainly they should be able to weigh in.
Kathleen, excuse me, it's City Council that rejected the opportunity to put it on a ballot. And so we keep talking about the city saying they wanted to, but it's the council that made the final decision. So there's a little disconnect here.
And you know, Dan, that's exactly what you and I heard when we were attending all of those respective hearings and meetings and workshops. And yet I think it was everybody who was there, of the petitioners, folks who have now reformed or have formed a new group on Stop the Lens, there's a certain feeling that people want to vote on what we have on our waterfront, and I think it's a little bit disingenuous to suggest that the city was ready, willing, and able, because the city council is a part of the city. And I don't think I heard some particular council members who were ready to give the citizens a vote at all.
The one exhibit that you had today, is that pretty unusual, that Mark Wynn had to drag over from City Hall?
No, it's just a demonstrative exhibit, but I think what's remarkable is that it is a laid out map of our city parks and waterfront property that's incorporated in our charter, that is for the whole world to see. This is important to the citizens of St. Pete. We've identified these particular parcels, and there are special rules that apply, and that's why we're here today, because they're doing something with our waterfront, and this is just one more chapter in the citizens' long fight to protect the city's waterfront.
These 60 days, however, how close does it get to that drop-dead moment when the wrecking ball is going to swing out there?
Well, and that is, of course, the concern that we have, and that's why we work very diligently. I and the petitioners, and of course Vote on the Pier, all the wonderful volunteers there who have been trying to get a vote for the people. We understand that there needs to be a replacement of that bridge, the pier approach. But remember, there's that Parsons-Brinkerhoff study that outlined how the restoration of the inverted pyramid would occur. And they actually laid out a plan where part of the approach could be blocked off so that we could maintain access and maintain money flow while the structure was being rehabilitated and while the bridge was being replaced, to limit the damage to the businesses that are there and thus the money flow to the city. Of course, we are all frustrated with the city's contention that this is subsidy after subsidy after subsidy, when in reality, if you took out the bridge maintenance, the pier shops used to bring in money for the city. So the city has to decide, do we want that bridge? And if we do, is it fair to charge that bridge cost? Because maintaining a structure over salt water costs a lot of money. Is it fair to put that cost upon those shop owners? And I submit that in the past years when I was on city council, we recognized that that was a valuable asset, and we would authorize the funding that was required to maintain that pier approach. But those shops, when they were run by Bill Griffiths, they made money for the city. The fact that they're mismanaging the asset now shouldn't be used against us, because this current administration cannot manage that structure. Admittedly, the pier approach is costly to maintain. But again, that's something that I think the voters for the city of St. Pete should weigh in on. Do you want to spend that money to put out a municipal bridge, and a municipal pier, and what do you want it to look like?
On its face, it may seem to be a ridiculous question. However, we know the city council, the mayor, they are determined to take down that pier and replace it. In this 60-day window, is there anything that they possibly could do to effectively disable that pier so that all of these legal arguments are a moot point?
It's my understanding that the current agreements that the city has with many of the leaseholders, the licensees, those folks who are permitted to run their business, that those do not end until May. Now, I have made a request for those documents from the city to confirm that, because what we've been hearing is that the inverted pyramid structure, our current pier building, will be shut down in May. Now, I do also understand that under the permitting process, if the city wants to construct a new pier, they have to come before SwiftMud and all the other environmental permitting agencies with not only their demolition plan, but their construction plan also. I would hope that the city would act in good faith and not begin to do things that would damage either the structurally sound building, as it was identified by Parsons Brinkerhoff back in the 2005 study that launched the whole project to restore the pier in the first place. But if there are actions being taken that suggest that the city is moving otherwise, then we will act appropriately. But I'm hopeful that everybody will act in good faith, because they understand how important this is to the citizens of St. Pete.
It is understood, however, that the pier itself, the structure, the building at the end, it is structurally sound. That does not need to be replaced, only rehabbed.
Correct.
And there's a vote tomorrow. The city's going to consider, the city council considers $5.4 million to move forward with the lens. Are you suggesting maybe they shouldn't do that? It wouldn't be prudent?
Well, it doesn't sound prudent to me to go forward with this lens design when there's a question out there as to whether or not that is going to be the actual structure. But this council has wasted money in the past. I'm hopeful that they would take a pause and take the opportunity to see how we should best spend citizens' money, or in this case, borrow it. And that's particularly frustrating to a lot of us who thought that over the huge run-up in values in real property, that the TIF fund was accruing a lot of money in the trust fund. Well, in fact, you know, Steve, you've looked at it. That money's just not there. The city would have to borrow. And I think that's a legitimate issue that I'd certainly agree to put on any ballot language. Do you agree to borrow this money to build this structure? And those will be a part of our discussions during mediation.
Thank you, Kathleen.